The cold wakes you first. Not the kind of cold you remember from Earth. This is different. This is the cold of suspended animation, the cold of time itself holding its breath. Carl Rhodes opens his eyes to the soft red glow of a cryopod's revival sequence. Frost crystals fall like snow inside the chamber. His chest heaves, his lungs burn. 12 years. He has been asleep for 12 years. But something is wrong. The alarm should not be sounding. Not yet. The Meridian should not reach Kepler 442b for another 6 months. His hands press against the frosted glass. His breath fogs the surface as systems around him hum with an irregular, stuttering rhythm. That is not normal. The pod hisses. The seal breaks. Cold air floods in, and Carl stumbles forward onto the deck plating, his legs remembering how to support weight. The ship groans, a deep, tortured metal sound that echoes through the corridors. His engineer's mind catalogs the symptoms: structural stress, power fluctuation, coolant leak in the secondary systems. Then he sees the emergency display on the nearest panel. His blood freezes colder than any cryogenic chamber. Alert. Vessel position. Contested space. Valorian collective territory. Recommend immediate course correction. The Valorians. Carl's mind pulls up everything humanity has learned about them in the past century. Expansionist, militaristic, absolutely hostile to human expansion. They call humans an infestation, an existential threat, and the Meridian has just drifted straight into their territory. Carl runs. Pod Bay C is 3 corridors away. He does not stop to think about the consequences of running on legs that have not moved in over a decade. He does not think about the impossible situation or the war that might already be happening above them. He thinks only of Mira, his daughter, 20 years old, or at least 20 years older than when they entered cryo. She is in pod C47. He remembers the number like a prayer. The corridors are dimmer than they should be. Emergency lighting flickers at irregular intervals, casting the ship in a stuttering, dreamlike haze. Every door he passes bears scorch marks, blast scorches. Carl's stomach tightens. Someone has been fighting. Recently. The pod bay doors loom ahead. They are partially sealed, but with effort Carl forces them open. The bay is in chaos. 3 of the 12 pods are dark, their occupants long dead or never recovered. 2 others stand open and empty. And C47 is still cycling. Carl moves to it. Through the frost-covered glass, he sees Mira's face, pale, serene, untouched by the 12 years that have ravaged the world outside. He places his palm on the cold surface. "Hold on," he whispers. "Dad is here." The pod sequence accelerates. A voice crackles through a damaged speaker. Dr. Sarah Chen, the ship's overseer. She sounds calm, which somehow makes everything worse. Pod C47 revival in progress. Welcome back, Mira Rhodes. Be advised, situation is critical. Vessel has experienced unexpected drift. Multiple systems are compromised. The pod hisses open. Mira gasps, her young body convulsing slightly with the shock of returning consciousness. Carl catches her as she falls forward, and she grabs him, her fingers digging into his shoulders. They hold each other, father and daughter meeting again across the vast gulf of 12 years. "Dad? Why are we waking up early?" Carl pulls back and looks at her face, so familiar, yet changed, older, sharper. "We've got bigger problems," he says. An alarm intensifies. Dr. Chen's voice fills the corridors once more. "Attention all crew. Unauthorized access detected in Engineering Sector 7. Repeat, unauthorized access. Security protocols engaged." Carl and Mira exchange a look. Carl's engineer instincts kick in. The ship is damaged. We're in hostile territory and someone is in our engineering bay. We need to get answers. Fast. "From who?" Mira asks. "From whoever is awake besides us." 2. The observation deck is 3 levels up. Carl navigates the corridors by memory and instinct, Mira following close behind. The ship shudders around them, a violent, sickening motion that sends them both stumbling. "Get to the wall," Carl shouts. They press themselves against the cold steel paneling as another tremor runs through the Meridian. "What is happening?" Mira's voice is small. "I don't know yet, but I'm about to find out." The observation deck doors are sealed, but they are not locked. Carl presses his hand to the access panel. It reads his biometric signature, the one thing the ship's systems has never forgotten. The doors slide open. What they see beyond stops Carl's breath. The stars are wrong. Not in a way that's hard to explain. Wrong in a way that screams across every instinct Carl has developed over 40 years of life. The Meridian is not alone in this sector of space. Surrounding them, at distances ranging from 5,000 to 50,000 kilometers, are ships. Dozens of them. Massive geometric vessels of silver and black, arranged in a formation that speaks of military precision and absolute control. Valorian warships. And the Meridian is trapped in the center of them. "No," Mira whispers. No, tell me we're not." "We're in their territory," Carl says flatly. "We've drifted off course, and they know we're here." Even as he speaks, a voice crackles across all frequencies, a voice that's distinctly non-human. "Human vessel Meridian, you have entered restricted space. This is Commander Thex of the Valorian Collective. You will power down all systems and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in immediate destruction. You have 10 minutes. The transmission ends. That is 9 minutes and 50 seconds then. Carl turns to his daughter. What Carl doesn't know is that the Valorian Collective is fracturing from within. Commander Thex represents the old guard, xenophobic, expansionist, convinced that humanity is a plague that must be eradicated before it spreads beyond the outer rim. But there are Valorians who disagree. Younger Valorians, visionaries, ones who believe that the Empire's hatred is not inevitable, that peace with humanity is possible, even desirable. One of those Valorians is Curve. He's in engineering when the orders come through, when Commander Thex's voice reverberates through the Valorian flagship Conquest, demanding that the Meridian be destroyed. Curve's bioluminescent markings flare bright with alarm and distress as he watches the weapons systems power up on the tactical display. Curve has spent the last 18 months studying human culture, human history, human art. He has done this in secret, in the dim hours when the rest of his crew sleeps. And what he has found in that darkness contradicts everything his empire has taught him. Humans are not vermin. They are not a plague. They are remarkable. But this knowledge means nothing if the Meridian is reduced to nuclear dust in the next 8 minutes. Curve makes a choice. He accesses the Conquest's internal communications network, something strictly forbidden to junior engineers, and sends an encrypted message to the Meridian. His fingers move across crystalline interfaces with practiced speed, sending data packets containing schematics, systems vulnerabilities, a map of the Valorian formation, and one piece of advice in trade common. Run. Trust no one. Come to Sector 12. There are allies. Then he disconnects and waits for security forces to arrest him. They do not come. Because in that moment, alarms begin screaming across the conquest, an explosion, not from weapons fire, but deep within the flagship's hull. A sabotage. In the chaos that follows, a traitor's message sent to an enemy vessel is unnoticed. Back aboard the Meridian, Dr. Chen's voice crackles through the speakers. Captain Rhodes, we have received an incoming transmission. Source, the Valorian vessel Conquest. Decryption complete. Carl and Mira stand in the observation deck, watching the countdown clock tick towards 0. 6 minutes remain. A schematic appears on the nearest screen. The layout of the Valorian fleet, with a highlighted corridor of empty space. Coordinates appear, along with text in trade common. What does it say? Mira leans closer, squinting at the alien script. Carl's eyes move across the text. Someone on that ship just told us exactly how to escape. Who? A prisoner? Another human? Carl reads the final line of the message aloud. My name is Curve. I believe in what your species can become. I believe in second chances. Use this gift wisely. Carl moves to the nearest console. His hands fly across the interface. Muscle memory from 12 years ago combining with instinct to chart a course that threads the needle between 3 Valorian destroyers. Chen, I need full power to the main engines. Now. Captain Rhodes, I must advise. I am not asking for advice. Divert everything. Life support, sensors, communications. Everything. The ship shudders as systems begin to power down. Lights flicker and die, replaced by the dull red emergency glow. The engines, silent for so long, begin to rumble back to life. 4 minutes. An alarm blares. Valorian weapons lock detected, Dr. Chen announces calmly. Firing in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Mira grabs Carl's arm. Dad, I have got this. Carl pulls the helm control towards himself, and the Meridian lurches forward. Every frame of the ship protests, every rivet screams. 3 minutes. The Valorian ships move to intercept, a coordinated dance of military precision, but they are not expecting the Meridian to move. They are not expecting a desperate, crippled human vessel to suddenly accelerate toward a gap that exists for only seconds. 2 minutes. Carl's eyes narrow. The gap between the destroyers widens for just a moment. The ships maintain formation for long-range weapons fire. He pushes the engines harder. The temperature in the bridge rises. Sweat runs down Carl's forehead. 90 seconds. Come on, he whispers. Come on, baby. Just a little further. 60 seconds. The Valorian weapons charge. High-pitched energy sounds fill the void. The targeting reticles lock. 30 seconds, and the Meridian shoots through the gap. Weapons fire erupts behind them. Brilliant plasma bolts cut through the vacuum where the ship had been mere seconds before. The Star Destroyers begin to pursue, but the Meridian is already accelerating toward the coordinates Curve provided. The gap between hunter and hunted widens. Carl does not relax until the Valorian ships fall off the sensors entirely. System status. Hull integrity at 62%, Dr. Chen reports. Life support stable but strained. We have achieved escape vector. Carl releases a long, shaking breath. Mira's hands are still clenched around his arm. For the first time since he woke from cryo, Carl allows himself to believe they might actually survive this. That belief lasts exactly 17 minutes. The message arrives on an encrypted channel that Dr. Chen should not be able to receive. But somehow the encryption keys Curve sent work perfectly. Captain Rhodes, you made it through the gap. Good. But this is not over. Commander Thex will not stop hunting you. He cannot. His authority depends on human extinction. However, there is a way. There is a treaty negotiation happening at Sector 12, a chance for peace between our empire and your kind. It happens in 3 days. If you arrive with evidence of human good faith, the moderates in the Valorian government might be able to sway the council, might be able to stop the war before it starts. But Fex will do everything in his power to prevent you from reaching that negotiation. And he has power, human, more than you understand. The transmission ends. Can we trust him? Mira voices what Carl is already thinking. We do not have a choice, Carl says flatly. If we do not reach Sector 12, we die anyway. If we do reach it, maybe we actually do something that matters. That is not an answer, Dad. No, it is not, but it's the only one I've got. 3 days become the longest 72 hours of Carl's life. The Meridian is built for long-distance travel, not evasion. She is slow. Her weapon systems are non-existent, just point defense guns and hull reinforcement plates. Against a Valorian warship, she is a sitting duck. Against multiple Valorian warships, she's target practice. But Carl has something that Valorian commanders do not. Nothing left to lose. He pushes the engines beyond recommended parameters. The ship vibrates constantly now, a tooth-aching hum that never quite stops. Power systems are failing in sections. The life support on Deck 8 goes dark. Then the hydroponics bay. Then 2 entire sections of crew quarters. Mira works alongside him in engineering, the only other human awake, the only other person who understands the machine they're trying to keep alive. Her hands bleed from cutting themselves on exposed wiring. Her eyes are hollow from 60 hours without sleep. But she does not stop. "Talk to me," she says quietly as they seal another breach. "Tell me why this matters. Tell me why Curve, why a Valorian would help us." Carl pauses. Because somewhere, there's always someone who believes in a better way, even in species that want to destroy us, even when it costs them everything to stand against their own kind. "That's beautiful," Mira says, "and terrifying." "Yeah," Carl agrees, "it is." The ambush comes on the second day. 3 Valorian hunter ships emerge from a nebula cloud bank, ships designed specifically for pursuit, ships designed specifically for killing things that run. An alarm blares. They are fast, they are deadly, and they are closing. Carl spots them on the tactical display and does something that might be brilliant or might be suicidal. He does not run straight for Sector 12. Instead, he runs toward the nebula. "Are you insane?" Dr. Chen's voice crackles through the speakers. "Probably," Carl says, "but nebulae scatter sensor signals. The Valorians can't see us if they can't see us." The Meridian's hull is already compromised. Flying through a nebula at this velocity will result in— "I know," Carl interrupts. "Do it anyway." The ship plunges into the nebula clouds. Visibility drops to near zero. The sensor arrays go haywire with false signatures and ghost contacts. The Meridian flies blind through a storm of cosmic radiation and dust, held together by hope and engineering that is barely holding the seams. An impact rocks the ship. The starboard engine dies. Alarms shriek in the corridors. "Multiple hull breaches," Mira shouts from her station. "Sections 3 and 4 are exposed." Carl's mind catalogs the problem, the solution, the sacrifice. They need to seal the engine room, but doing so means abandoning anyone who might be in there. He runs the numbers. They don't have power to reach Sector 12 on one engine, unless they lighten the load. Seal Sections 3 and 4. Cut them loose. If anyone is— "There's no one in there, Mira. We're the only ones awake. There's just cargo, and we don't need cargo. We need to survive." The sections disengage with a deep, resonant shudder. Cargo containers spill into the nebula like offerings to space itself. And the Meridian, suddenly lighter, suddenly more responsive, accelerates forward. The hunter ships fall further back, losing themselves in the dense clouds. By the time they emerge from the nebula, they have lost the Valorian pursuit. But they have also lost an entire section of the ship and half their remaining power reserves. They are running on fumes now. Sector 12 appears on the sensors like salvation. A neutral station orbits a brown dwarf, a space designed specifically for negotiations between hostile species. Valorian diplomatic vessels are docked there, human observation ships, even a few Lyran observers, species that care about the outcome of the war. And somewhere among them is Curve.
The Meridian limps toward the docking bay. Every system is held together with desperation and duct tape. Carl guides her in with the gentleness of a man handling a wounded animal. The docking clamps engage. They have made it. Carl and Mira step out of the airlock into a neutral corridor. The first humans to set foot on Valorian territory with anything other than weapons. Their arrival attracts attention. Alien eyes turn toward them, some curious, some hostile, and one pair of eyes that holds something else entirely. Curve steps forward from the crowd. His bioluminescent markings glow soft blue in the station's artificial light. He is smaller than Carl expected, less imposing, more earnest. "Captain Rhodes, you came. I was uncertain." Carl extends his hand, a human gesture of peace that Curve might not understand. But Curve does understand. He extends one of his crystalline appendages and clasps Carl's hand. It is awkward, it is strange, but it is contact. Curve releases Carl's hand and looks directly at Mira. His markings brighten slightly. "And you are the daughter, Mira. I have read much about human children, your capacity for hope, for adaptation. It is remarkable." Mira smiles slightly. "You are not what I expected." "I am aware that I am not what most Valorians expect either," Curve says. "This is why I am considered problematic." The negotiation chamber is cold and bright, designed for species with different sensory organs and different needs. Carl stands before the Valorian Council, flanked by Mira and Curve. Commander Thex stands across the chamber, his expression a mask of controlled rage. Around them, the diplomatic corps of 3 species watches and waits. "State your case, human," the council speaker commands. Carl's voice is steady when he speaks. "We are not a plague. We are not an existential threat. We are a species barely out of infancy, trying to find our place in a universe that is far larger and more complex than we ever imagined. We came to the Valorian territories seeking peace, seeking a place to build, to grow, to contribute. And when our ship drifted into your territory, when you had every right to destroy us, one of your own people chose compassion instead. This Valorian, this engineer, he believed we deserved a chance. He risked everything, his position, his safety, his life, for the possibility of peace. If a Valorian can believe in us, why cannot your council?" Silence fills the chamber. Commander Thex stands. "Because belief is weakness, human. Because your species will multiply, will spread, will eventually threaten Valorian supremacy." Mira steps forward. The move is unexpected. The council stirs. "I am 18 years old," she says. Her voice is clear and unwavering. "I woke up on a ship surrounded by enemies. I had every reason to be afraid, to want to fight. But what I found instead was Curve, a Valorian who chose empathy over protocol, and that changed me. I believe that every species, even the ones we fear, has individuals who are capable of seeing beyond hatred. Curve is proof of that. And I think the Valorian collective is strong enough to choose a better way, because it is the harder choice, because it requires more strength than destruction ever will." The council chamber is utterly silent. Then the speaker rises, a Valorian whose markings are softer, less militant than Thex's. The council calls for a vote. all in favor of granting humanity a protected settlement zone in the Outer Rim, pending a formal peace treaty. Curve watches the votes come in. 3 in favor, 2 abstaining. 1, Commander Thex, vehemently opposed. But 3 is enough. Thex leaves the chamber in cold fury, his guards filing out behind him. The vote is not binding without unanimous consent from the military branch. Not yet. But it is a start. It is hope. In the quiet hours after the negotiation, Curve finds Nira in one of the station's observation areas. "You were remarkable in there. You spoke truth to power." Mira watches the brown dwarf rotate slowly in the viewport. She is exhausted. She is hungry. She is covered in grease and scars from the journey. But she is also, somehow, impossibly, alive. "I learned from the best," she says quietly. "My father taught me that the hardest things are usually the most important things." Curve moves closer, cautiously, making sure his presence is welcome. His bioluminescent markings pulse gently, a color that, if one were poetic, might be called affection. "I studied human customs," he says carefully. "I do not know if this is appropriate, but—" He reaches out and gently touches her hand. "I believe I experience something your species calls connection." Mira's hand remains still, warm against Curve's crystalline appendage. "I think I feel that too." It is not a love story in the traditional sense. It is 2 beings from species that were taught to hate each other, finding in the darkness of space something that transcends that hatred. Something that says, we are not defined by our enemies. We are defined by what we choose to become. 3 months later, the Meridian approaches a new world. Not Kepler 442b. That plan changed. This world is different. This world is shared. The first human Valorian colony will be established here, not as conquest, not as dominion, but as partnership, as proof that even species at opposite ends of the galaxy can find common ground. Carl stands on the bridge, watching the planet grow larger in the view screen. Beside him, Dr. Chen runs a final systems check. "Welcome to Kepler 127c, Captain Rhodes. Atmospheric composition suitable for human habitation. Soil samples indicate adequate mineral deposits. Initial survey teams report no hostile life forms." And Curve's settlement team? "Arriving in approximately 2 hours," Dr. Chen reports. "They are bringing structural materials, agricultural equipment, and a diplomatic envoy from the Valorian Council, including a personal representative to oversee the integration efforts." Carl smiles. It is the first real smile since he woke from cryo. Mira enters the bridge, her hair tied back, her uniform marked with the insignia of a junior navigator. She has joined the crew permanently, decided to help build this future rather than retreat to safe spaces on Earth. She stands beside her father and looks at the world below. "We did it," she says softly. Carl thinks about the journey, about the impossible choices, the desperate evasions, the moment when he thought everything would end in fire and silence. He thinks about Curve and the decision to believe in an enemy. He thinks about his daughter, who refused to let fear divide her from compassion. "Yeah," he says. "We did." In the end, humanity's greatest strength has never been our weapons or our cunning. It is our capacity to see the other and choose empathy anyway. To believe that even in the darkness of space, even when surrounded by enemies,
there is always a choice to build, to connect, to become something greater than the sum of our fears. The Meridian descends toward the planet. Her hull is scarred and patched, barely holding together. But it descends regardless, carrying the future inside her steel frame. Carrying proof that when humans dare to dream, when we dare to trust, when we dare to extend our hands in hope rather than in fists of fury, we can change the galaxy. And somewhere far away, in a Valorian ship approaching the same world, Curve's markings glow with the same hope.